don't skip the steps, right? If you're gonna jump into it, man, you got to know everything about it, right? And if you don't know everything about it, like nobody knows everything, right? Then you got to be willing to learn as much as you can, and practice it. That's the number one thing.
Welcome to the Brand Hustlers Podcast, where innovation meets ambition and stories of success inspire the next generation of business leaders. Each episode, we dive into the journeys of those who hustle, those who make their dreams a reality, and those who are shaping the future of business. Whether an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a dreamer with a vision, you're in the right place. So get ready to ignite your passion, learn from the best, and transform your ideas into action. This is where your brand story begins. Welcome, Brand Hustlers. What's good, Brand Hustlers? It's your boy, Ryan Roundtree, also known as Tree the Creator. And we are here with my guy, Kyle Johnson. Man, I met Kyle back in, I don't think my kids were born yet, so it had to been like 2009, 2010. That's when you were at Jay's, was that?
I was at Jay's, man.
Was that around that time?
Jay's Auto.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this brother Kyle he was fixing my car for me. You know, he was a Renaissance man, like Jet J's, and the next thing you know, he was like, man, I just got to start following my passion. I seen him start to do other things, and in that time, and I would say more recently, you know, seeing him, open up
Bluestone
Goldsmith. Yeah. Man, when I tell you this spot is nice, dog. This is immaculate, man. I love the core, the vibe is amazing, and just from what I witnessed on social media. What you produce, man, is amazing, man.
Thank you.
And it's so, I would say, out of the ordinary for definitely for when it was something that I guess never even thought about, as far as something that not necessarily a career, but it's an art form. It's an art form.
It is.
There is a lot of detail that goes into it. So I'm not going to talk too much, but I'm just going to get into just asking a few questions about being a brand hustler, because, man, this is definitely awesome, and I feel as though you could definitely benefit the brand hustler community with, some mindset and just that to find out, like, what it is that, kind of pushed you in this direction. So I can just give a little backstory as to the journey to get here. Like, when did you first draw an interest in becoming a jeweler, a custom jeweler?
Started off, of course, mechanic, right? Which is wild because in the very, very beginning, I wanted to be an architect, right? Like, that was my thing. My dad was an architect, but my mom was an artist. So, like, I had this whole always eye to create something, right? But I had to put myself through school, so I became a mechanic. That turned into, like, I was really into it. I loved cars, I loved tinkering. Give me some tools, I want to work on it, I want to figure it out, things like that. And I became a foreman. So essentially, like, when you're a foreman at a shop, you kind of get to a point where it's like you diagnose things, but then you just don't really replace it, you just tell the guys how to diagnose it, Mm-hmm. So I would sit at my toolbox all day. I was just bored. I mean, when I say bored, I would sit on my toolbox and watch movies until, matter of fact, what happened was my boss, I guess Verizon or whatever internet company they had, sent an email because we were downloading illegal movies, right, on my laptop, and we were watching them. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out something else. So I met, at that time, I wanted to create a ring, and I was looking, like, where do I find, like, how do I make this ring?
So random, you said.
Just randomly. Like, I was just like, I want to make a ring, right? I was just like, the most random thing ever. So I met a master goldsmith, and he pretty much, this guy looked like he walked out of Woodstock, man. I mean, long, thin, gray hair kind of thing, silver dentures that he made himself. And he's like smoking a cigarette in this like stone cutting interest meeting. And he's smoking a cigarette inside in the back of the building. And everybody's like, go talk to that guy. I'm like, sure, you go talk to that guy. So I get over there, I'm talking to him. He's like, yeah, man, real hippie-ish kind of guy. He was like, you want to learn? He was like, you can go to school, or you can learn with me. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what's up? I don't know. So he gave me some wax, and he gave me some files. And the first thing he ever told me, he was like, how do you eat an elephant, all right? And he said, one bite at a time, right? And he was like, you take this wax and you carve it until you see exactly what you want to see. He was like, don't chunk it all off at once. Do little by little. So I took all this wax, and now I'm at my toolbox wax files and everywhere, right? I'm not even working on cars. I'm just like, screw working on cars. I want to make this ring, right? So I'm carving.
What over there doing?
And he, I brought back the first one, carving. And he was like, wow, that was quick. And I was like, let me do another one. So I did another one. And and another one, and another one. And he was like, okay, come apprentice with me. So I worked in his shop, man. I mean, like I would go to work. Let's see, I would get to work about like 7 o'clock, right? As soon as I got off, which was like between 5 and 6, I would go directly to his studio and I would stay there. Sometimes I would like sleep in the chair, right? And it was like kind of like in a basement. So it wasn't the best of conditions kind of situation. I would just work, make jewelry. And like, I honestly was just doing it because I wanted to see things that I wanted to get things out of my head, right? And it started to snowball into this situation of like people were asking me, can you make me something? And that was a strange transition because I went from making things that I wanted to see, right? And a lot of times when you make things or you do things that you want to see, you can freestyle it, you know, like you can, it just comes, it flows. But when you're taking somebody else's idea, right, you got to like stop, pause, kind of jump into their shoe and develop what they want to see, right? And I really started to gain an appreciation for doing that. Then that turned into the situation where we stand here is us concentrating majorly on bridal, right? Okay. Being a part of that ceremony, you know, something that they're going to wear forever, right? For me to put a little bit of my artistic spin onto it. But we really want our, you know, clients to feel a part of, you know, everything that we do and the love and the hard work that I put into it. I want you to come in and see it getting done. And I want these consultations to be very one-on-one and let's draw it out together, you know, like let's do this together, you know. So that's kind of like how, I guess, the journey from, you know, cars, right, I guess you would say, all the way to where we stand. So yeah. Okay.
How, I would say, describe to me your first piece for someone else, and I guess that experience, because I mean, I know for myself, like looking back at my first video, my first wedding video, and I'm just like, that was, I mean, in my mind, it's like, man, that's trash.
No, for sure. Same thing, man. My first piece, man, actually, shout out to AP, man. He's probably gonna see this because he's still one of my clients, man. And he came to me, was like, look, I'm having it was a baby shower, that's what it was. And he wanted these little hearts that were like initials, it was like 2 initials, but in the shape of a heart, right? And I'm like drawing this out. I'm so excited, right? I'm drawing this out and everything, right? I'm like, yes, this is gonna be so cool, so cool. So my heart was like jumping out of my chest when I was delivering it to him, right? Because I did not know what to expect. And he was like, oh, I love it, blah, 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 right? And it's so crazy. Sorry, AP, but when I look back at it now, I'm like, oh my God, this was horrible. Like, what was I doing, right? Like, oh no.
Maybe I can get this back somehow.
You know, and he's still, you know, one of my clients when I first was doing it to when, you know, I am where I'm at right now, you know? But yeah, that first piece, man, it was scary, man. Like, I just didn't know what to expect. And I'm grateful that someone saw something in me that was like, yo, I want you to do it for me, you know, instead of just going to any and everybody, you know. That jump started it. After that, I got that bug. I was like, oh, people like what I do. Let's do it more, you know, so.
I guess along the journey, I know that there are those times where, yes, you got the bug, but on the flip side, you may have that, not the self-doubt, but you may be like, man, like, am I really heading in the direction that I'm supposed to be going? I would say describe a time in which you felt as though you may have felt like you were going to stop or quit, and what ultimately drove you to keep pushing forward.
I've always been kind of like self-motivated, but I think, and this is actually, I would even almost say like recently, like things kind of during the pandemic, towards like the end of the pandemic, was when I was really going through this transition of saying, I am going to build a legacy now. Like, I am no longer going to say, maybe I'll show up or maybe I won't show up. I'm going to build this legacy. I was terrified. I was like, my daughter was about to be born, right? My first. And I had these options. I was like, you know, you're great at being a mechanic. You can go get a job anywhere, right? And at that time, I was still working part-time at a shop, right? And my boss was very lenient. He knew what I was doing. So, you know, I'm using that and I'm starting to be a little bit more full-time in the jewelry business, you know, but it was still just kind of like supplementing the gaps of financial need. Sometimes those gaps were just way too big. And I'm like, man, just work a full day, you know, at the shop, right? But every time I did that, I had to think in my head, like, that's a full day that you're not concentrating on something else, right? And something I used to always tell myself is like, you know, you just got to show up, you know, regardless if the customer's in the door, regardless if you got work on the bench, right? You got to show up. And that in itself will prove itself, right? It proves itself to the people who are watching you, and it proves itself to you. You show up, it's going to come, right? You show up, it's going to come. But if you don't show up, nothing's going to come about it. But like that transition to like completely go from like, you know, I'm not going to work for anybody else except for myself was rough, man. I remember just countless talks with my wife. My wife, you know, biggest supporter ever, you know what I mean? And she was just like, go, you know? And I was like, yeah, but what if they don't like it? You know, like you keep getting that in the back of your head, you know, it doesn't matter. And some of the best and biggest designers in the world, you know, always get that. What if they don't like it? And you really just got to put yourself in this position where it's like doing this for you and it's going to work. Just show up. It was a very like blind jump. It was a blind, like head down, keep moving. Right, regardless of what's coming in, just keep going, and it's gonna pay off. And you know, praise God, it worked. You know, eventually it worked. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's I know it definitely had to be rough during the pandemic. I know especially the wedding industry slowed down, came to a complete halt. Complete halt. I would say slow down. I can't say slow down. But actually, I know I actually shot my first wedding. I shot during the pandemic. Like it was literally. Man, I had to. I was so adamant. I was like, I want to shoot weddings. I want to, you know, capture love and do. You know, it's like I have so many things in my head. I want to create, and not necessarily having a portfolio. Of course, I gotta bite the bullets. Oh, you know, I'll do it for $600.
Yeah,
you know, and I'll, you know, in my first one, I live streamed the joint too. So I didn't even have the equipment for it. So I really didn't make any money with my first wedding. It was like, man, I went and bought this the stream thing. You know, bought that. I made I spent money to shoot that wedding. So, but I'm sure that the pandemic definitely put a hard, you know, I'll say damper in your spirit as far as like moving forward. Were you producing anything outside of weddings? I mean, even with that, everything slowed down.
Yeah. So we, a big chunk of the pandemic, me and a few of my old partners, we created this thing called the Cahoots brothers, right? And that was in Remington. And so my wife wrote up, it was a contest, right, to win a retail store. So
hold on, you said win a retail store?
You won a store. Like they literally were giving you a store for like a year, right? Now, mind you, in the back of our head, we are excited. We're like, yeah, we got a store. What we didn't realize is, dude, it's pandemic. Nobody can even go inside, right? So we're redoing this store. And at the same exact time, right, I was leaving my old apartment. So because the landlord was selling it, so I had a store under there, so I was leaving that also. I had zero studio, right? So I was temporarily set up at my mentor's studio, but I didn't have anything at that point, right? And we just so happened we won. I was like, oh, this is great, right? So I was able to set up there, and we were doing this real kind of like artist kind of collective kind of situation, but it was during the pandemic, which was really rough because like nobody was coming in the door. For the first few months, man, the inside of that place looked like, you know, the boys' gym. Like we had weights in there. There was pizza boxes stacked up. Like, now mind you, all this with like clothing and stuff and artwork, but we didn't have anything else to do. It was the pandemic. We were like literally bored. I wasn't getting anything in. I'm just like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, I had like maybe a few jobs that kind of kept me afloat, but it was just rough, man. It was really, really rough. I ended up leaving and I got my own office, and it started to pick up a little bit. That was when I guess some of the laws got a little bit more lax, right? Mm-hmm. And so things started to, you know, come back. But pandemic was a rough time. It was a rough time, but it gave me a lot of time to practice, study, you know, and prepare myself for where I wanted to go. And that was really saying that we were going to do bridal, and that's going to be our thing, is bridal. So
okay,
yeah.
In this industry, I would fair to believe that it's not heavily populated by us, by, you know, people of color. So what does that look like as far as like how many other people, let's say in Baltimore or in Maryland, if there are any, you know, like what does the demographic look like as far as custom
jewelers? I would say in a sense of like what I do in dealing with the more of the goldsmithing side and creating by hand, doing fabrications by hand, alchemy by hand, things like that. For people like us, I haven't really ran into anybody. That's, I mean, that's it. Like, I haven't really ran into anybody. It's rough, but it's a cool spot to be in, because it means that your voice means a lot to a lot of people who may be thinking the same thing, like that want to get into this field, right? So being, I guess, kind of a traditionalist, right? And that kind of stems back all the way from like being young. So like my dad was an architect. I remember CAD when it actually first came out, but I remember as a child, that's all I did was board drawings, right? So, and I still have my like parallel rule and everything. I love with creating with my hand, like I love rolling my pencil and I love bringing out my squares and everything like that. And then from there, like going into cars kind of thing, like I always like the older cars, like I tried to stay away from like, if I got to plug into a computer, I'm not doing it, right? So, but of course you have to simulate with time. But, and then into jewelry, just so happened, my mentor, right, is a 100% traditionalist. Like, if you say the word CAD, he's like, get out, he's like, we don't, there's things to be respected about that. There really is, because it's like, like an architect takes forever and a day, right, to learn how to draw a straight line, right, and simple things, or to draw a circle that's never perfect, right? But a computer can draw a circle in 2 seconds.
Man,
right?
CAD is the devil.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm just like, man, this is
like
crazy.
AI right now.
But now it's AI, right? Like you can literally talk into like a program and it creates it, right? And then the printer prints it out and then you cast it. So it's there's a lot of us that I say, yeah, we jumping on computers all day and CAD all day, right? And you call yourself a jeweler, that's cool, that's fine, right? I'm not mad at you, right? But
some of the artistry is lost.
Some of the artistry is lost. I'm sorry, like it just is, right? It really is. I 100% value the fact that I can make settings and I've learned how to do it by hand without sitting on a computer, creating a setting and printing it out and just filing it and setting it.
Man,
right?
that has to be tedious. Like, what is, I would say on average, bride comes in today, bride and groom to be come in today, sit down, do the consultation. What is that process like? How much time goes into customizing one of these rings? Of course, depending on the detail.
Yeah, for sure.
But a more, I would say, common, not necessarily like super detailed ring. Like, what is the turnaround time, or how much time does it, I would say, normally take you? Because even just watching the Instagram videos, and those are shorts, this process alone, like, is a tedious process.
Yeah, so I guess from like point A to point Z, it's like, the client comes in. I love it when they got a plan, right? That's like, I'm like, yes. Yo,
you got a vision.
Let me tell you, if they pull out a piece of paper, I'm like, you got a drawing? Like, yeah, let's do this, right? So like now my mind is like, but when you don't have anything, I'm just like, ooh, okay. So, first, the center stone, like in engagement rings, the center stone is always the most important, right? And usually what you spend the most money on is that center stone. So, we hone in on our center stones first, right? The color, the shape, what type it is, we prefer diamonds and sapphires, of course. They're very bulletproof kind of situation. We like to build bulletproof jewelry here. Once we hone in on that, then I kind of pick your brain about like, okay, where are we going? Do we want like a lot of fancy prongs and smaller accent stones, or do we want something that's going to be more structural looking and more simplistic? Once I get that, then I go to the drawing board and I start drawing out like real like, very elementary kind of sketches, right? Just to get reaction from our client. So if they're leaning this way or if they're leaning that way. And once we get that, then we hone in more, okay, now we have a style. Now let's create the style, okay? And then from there, usually I take those drawings or those sketches, I'll take a picture of it, and like with my iPad, and I draw on my iPad now because it just eliminates paper. Like it got to a point where I just had so many drawings, like to catalog it all, it was pointless.
And
so
central storage
I need a central storage, and it just made life easy. I could take it everywhere, So I start to sketch on my pad, and I really hone in, and usually it's about like, by that time we're down to like 2 to 3 designs, right? they're kind of similar, right? But then they'll usually lean towards whatever, or pick a little bit from here, pick a little bit from there, which is good. I will say this about an iPad, right? And like filters and stuff. So like I'm not necessarily very computer forward kind of guy, but like learning about filters and things like that, I was able, what I'll do is like, we're gonna take these stones, we're gonna make one filter here because I can pull it out. And if they don't want stones on the shoulder, I can just pull it and just delete, you know what I mean? And I can put it there. So it does help with my client, like to see that same exact shape, but being manipulated really, really quick, right? And then once we're like, yes, that's it, right? Then we get to work. By that time, I have a very good grasp on, like, I'm already in my head thinking, what is the process? What are the steps that I have to go towards, you know, to complete this final project? As an artist, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a procrastinator sometimes too. And it's not like I'm like just not trying to do the job. It's like I literally will sit and fester on something really long and build the entire thing in my head. Like I will build the entire thing all the way to the polish, right? And then when I sit at the bench, it's like boom, 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 boom. Because one thing I'm not really good at is like taking a ring and saying like start and stop. Like I have to complete it all the way through, right?
Oh, wow.
And I only complete that one ring all the way through. So like sometimes our turnaround would be like 6 weeks or whatnot, but I will complete that ring completely through. Like I won't stop to start something else, right? Because then I lose kind of that creative momentum that I have when creating that piece. And that's just with like either it's getting fabricated, which is just taking the actual metal, bending it, twisting it, pulling it, drilling it, or casting it. So it's carving the wax first and then doing the casting, which I started off doing a lot of wax carving. So I'm very, very familiar with wax carving. So I will carve a wax ring up in 3 seconds, right? And then leave out the parts that need to, you know, if I have to put prongs on or something a little bit more detailed, leave out those parts. So once it's casted, cleaned up, then I'll do the metal work that needs to get done. So like, you know, something we would say like between like 6 to 8 weeks, about 6 to 8 weeks. Lately, we've been fortunate enough now. We do have another jeweler, which I'm very excited for. It leaves me in a better creative space because he has great hands, you know. In the industry, that's what you look for. You look for somebody who has great hands, right? And he's just like, you know, I think it's still a third generation jeweler. So he's like, bam, 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 bam. And I'm like, wow, 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 wow. You know, and I'm learning every day too, because he's doing some stuff and I'm looking at him like, how'd you do that? Like, but, and he's very good at like relaying exactly what I'm doing or what I need done. He's very good at just picking it up. And I think that having a relationship, especially when you get to a point when you do have employees or you have somebody that's working for you and doing your work and your designs and things like that, it's very important to have that relationship of they can see what they can think and see exactly how you want it done, right? But so it makes time a little bit faster, but I'm a very, like, I like to be hands-on still. So yeah, I definitely like to be hands-on. So, you know, we're still at that 6 to 8 weeks, so, but yeah.
Okay. But even with that, I mean, is there really a, not a plan, but is that being hands-on, like being hands-off, is that something that you kind of desire to do or like not really?
I do. So lately, I have really been getting into like just stone setting. I really enjoy stone setting. Like it is very peaceful to me for some reason, right? And it all started because I'm super late. I just bought myself a microscope. So we have a complete stone setting bench that's only dedicated for stone setting, right? And so usually we wear optivisors, magnifying things and everything like that. And I've been working onto that for like, 10 years, right? And then I got a microscope and I was like, whoop, and it was mind-boggling. I was like, this is crazy. I can do all these crazy things and my tolerances can get much tighter and things like that. It's gotten to a point where it's like sometimes, man, like I'll have the design of the ring and I'll just, hey, bro, there you go. Bring it to me when these stone setting and then I get to set the stone. Eventually, with any business that grows, you have to become hands off. I love the art, right? And I will always be the designer. But now I'm starting to see the benefits of having a team that can create for you. And honestly, like my jeweler, he kind of told me, he was like, yeah, man, why don't you just design more, I was like, all right, bro.
You go do that.
He was like, yo, just design, man. He was like, yo, that's what you're really into that. He's like, I got it. So I'm just like, all right. But I mean, that took like, I was really like, micromanagement kind of thing. And now there's like, this zero. I'm like, all right, go ahead, bro. But with growth, that's what happens. And if I want this to be any bigger, I have to really get to a point where I'm just like, all right, guys, this is what we're doing. This is how I need this on this sector and this and this and this. And
then somebody going to tell you, all right, get out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Literally,
you can go
Time
now.
to go, bro. Time to go.
I'm hanging around. I need to go.
Yeah,
get
so...
out.
It's a fun journey, man. I'll be honest. I never thought it would ever get to this point. I always thought from my first little desk, which was in the corner of like a makeshift kind of hallway living room that we had in me and my wife's first apartment, never thought it would ever get to this, right? And it's a blessing. It's the best ride. And, I'm learning every single day. And I think that's the coolest part is because I'm still learning, and they always say like, once you stop learning, it's like, you need to go find something else, right? But if you're always learning, then you can always build onto it, and that's the coolest thing about it.
Cool. So what would you, I would say, attribute your hustle to, like the eagerness or the desire to grind for this thing?
At this point right now, man, it's my family all day, every day, backstory. My father, right, like I said, he was an architect. My mother, she was an artist, okay? And she like painted and made furniture, and she was like the mom that everybody came to after school. And my father passed away my 11th grade year, right? My mother didn't really work. Right? My mother, she stayed at home. My mother, at the time when my father passed away, I was going into the 11th grade. My other brother, he was going into like the 8th grade or something like that. And my mother was also pregnant, right? At the same exact time. And she took literally a hobby, I guess you would say, and turned it into a straight up career. She was like, and I'm talking about in the flip of a switch. She was like, oh, hell, I got to raise these boys now. Like, they got all this to do and such. And she became an art therapist, right? And she like really honed in on her art. And to see that transition, move that quick and just really see that what she did for the family, it was just like, I take a piece of that, man, and I ride with it forever. You know what I mean? And then like my father and like my grandfather's like, as an architect, you're essentially still an artist, right? And they did that to raise a family, And now I'm in a position where it's like, you're married and you got kids. Now it's your turn. I just look at like what my mom did, and I look at, what my dad did for us. And to put us in certain situations, really good situations, I literally tell myself every day, like, I can't fail them. You know what I mean? I can't, And now I got my kids and, my daughter, she's going on 5, but she might as well be 15 at this point. Like, driving me nuts. And I look at her and she comes in here and now she carves wax and stuff, nice. Which is really cool, right? And, in the back of my head, I'm like, ooh, I gotta work. But, then the next day she's like, I want to go to New York to be an actress. So I'm like, all right, well. But it's so beautiful, but I want to be able to give her those opportunities, right? And my son, he's about to be 5 months. Whatever he wants to do, I want to give him those opportunities that, my parents gave me. That's my drive, man. My family is my straight up drive, and I'll say it like, if it ain't this and it's something else, but I be damned, like that's my drive is my family. So yeah.
So where did the name come from?
So Bluestone is actually been in my family on my father's side for a very long time. It's Native American. I picked it up. I liked it, Bluestone. And something else is that Bluestone, the boy in our family, always gets the middle name Bluestone, right? And so yeah, it's very interesting. So and it's a Native American name. I was like, you know what? This is for my family. So Bluestone it is, and I threw goldsmithing on the end. Didn't really realize that like even like writing an email, like typing up an email, it's like Kyle at Bluestone Goldsmithing. You always gotta like spell it out to somebody because they have no idea. Like what's the email again? So it's a little long, but Bluestone's it, man. That's my family. That's our heritage, man. So yeah.
So what sacrifices do you feel as though that you had to make in order for this to be, I would say, successful?
I mean, of course, everybody's gonna say like no sleep, right? You know, just being tired. But after a while, that doesn't really bother me anymore. It's just kind of like, you know, I will say one thing about me is like I won't miss a deadline. That is one thing when it comes to delivering, especially if you gotta deliver bridal. Do not miss a deadline because when she wants her ring, she getting her ring. So you can't miss those deadlines, right? So I'll find myself sometimes on those like, you know, 24-hour work, you know, patterns, kind of thing like that. And I think the sacrifice of accepting being uncomfortable is a big sacrifice that I think anybody needs to accept if they want to really jump out on their own and do something, and to know that, you know, your meal is not guaranteed right now, right? Like that check ain't coming, bro, if you not out there, right? Or if you're not sitting here, you know, I don't care what you were doing last night. I don't care if you hungover or what, right? Like you ain't getting paid, right? Hungover, like you ain't getting paid, bro. So it's like, you know, I think the sacrifice of like I'm accepting to be uncomfortable for quite some time, and you know to like my wife make sure that I'm still always in a mental good space, right? You know, small things, you know, just you did a good job today. Thank you, baby. You know what I mean? You know, because like, there be some days you be like, God damn, I don't know where this is going to end. You know, so yeah, I think it's just, you know, willing to be uncomfortable.
So what's in the future for Bluestone?
So this year, everything is just aligned. A lot of really, really cool things, man. So we're fortunate enough now, like I'm kind of doing some work with the Women's Jewelry Association, all right, of the DMV. So she's really been helping me hone in on like bridal and things like that. And we really want to take bridal to that next step. Right? So what that kind of looks like for us is officially releasing our first collection. And it's not a large collection. We're not talking about like 100 pieces. I mean, we're doing like eight pieces, each piece 100 run, you know, signed, stamped, everything like that. But where it gives our clients now access and purchase and pick and play like online, which is a first for us, because usually it's just book an appointment, got to come in, or we're on Skype or whatnot. So this time you'll actually be able to pick and play stones and things like that. So that's coming in May. We're really excited about that. And we'll also be doing a lot more. We will actually start doing kind of like stone buying, like pop-ups for engagement rings and things like that. So we'll be bringing in our stone dealers. We'll have all this product, and you'll be able to come in, and we'll take you through the process like right then and there. So you can pick your stone, and we'll have the sample rings, and you can put it on top and everything like that. So that's going to be really, really cool. And then from there, we here in this location on Reed Street, we take in repairs, right? And repairs started to become a thing like for us because it was something more like what the community needed. Now, just in a short span of time, repairs is like taking over a lot of our business, right? Like in terms of like time. Right. So I decided to say, you know what, we're gonna split this. We're gonna do something cool on the repair side too. Right. So we're getting ready to go through a transition where we're gonna be splitting from, it will still be Bluestone Goldsmithing, but it'll be Bluestone Goldsmithing, the repair shop. Right. So we'll name it the repair shop. The repair shop will be kind of like a very much on demand kind of repairs. Like you can come in and we'll try to knock it out right then and there for you. Right. We're going to try to keep it in this store where it's still nice and fancy. Right. We're going to sell other cool things that I'm just into, you know, so you never know what you may get. Like I love trucker hats, and other hats you may see a collection of a bunch of old school hats still for sale, you know. And then we're going to take Bluestone Goldsmithing, which is essentially the hierarchy, and that bridal, and put it into a more of a fancier, I guess you would say fancier position, right? With a nicer office kind of situation. It won't be a lot of machinery. It'll be just like the diamond setting bench and another bench, of course, but very clean and pristine kind of situation. That's been a lot of those things have been, I guess, our attention for this year, which is doing the repair shop and then also taking the bridal to that next level for our clients.
Gotcha. How can people reach you? Like, what is social medias, website, location, and how can people get in contact with you for their custom wedding pieces?
Yeah, so of course we have Instagram, Bluestone Goldsmithing. Then the website, bluestonegoldsmithing.com. Those are probably going to be the two easiest if you need to book an appointment. So even our repairs, you can book an appointment and schedule a time. So that the website's the easiest way. And then just Instagram, we need to be more, that's another thing. We need to be more on social media kind of thing. I'm not gonna lie, it probably takes me like 2 hours to make a reel, right? It's bad. It's like really, really bad. So I've gotten to the point where I'm just like hanging it up and letting somebody else take control of it. So hopefully, in the next few months coming, you're going to see a lot more, cool content and things like that, instead of just like boring pictures that I usually take with a broke camera, right? But those are the easiest ways, to contact us. And, we reply. It's me and my wife. So like, it's not like you're contacting Zales, right? So like if you email us, you're going to get a reply from either me or my wife, right? You're not getting Mr. AI
Someone
automated.
on our team will reply to you.
Somebody on our team will get back to you within 24 hours, right? Like we usually reply, and we're a family-owned business, so it's like, we like to keep it family-oriented kind of situation, so we try not to be real corporate sticklers, kind of thing. So,
And one more question. What do you think that it takes to be a brand hustler?
I would say, man, determination. Takes determination. And like I said, to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. Seriously, like that's the number one. That's the number one thing, right? Every time you get knocked down, gotta get right back up, bro. Like there is no, okay, let me stay down for a little bit. You gotta get right back up and keep pushing at that one thing. That's determination, man. I think that's the key to really want to deliver something and put your full heart into it. Don't skip the steps. That's like even with me, like CAD started coming out, right? And people were like making this CAD stuff. And then you look at the ring or you look at it and you're like, man, this is going to fall apart in 2 days, right? It's because they skipped the step of actually sitting at a bench and understanding the principles of it, right? The core foundations, right? So with that being said, it's like, don't skip the steps, right? If you're going to jump into it, man, you got to know everything about it, right? And if you don't know everything about it, like nobody knows everything, right? Then you got to be willing to learn as much as you can, and practice it, man. I practice every single day setting a stone. I don't care if I've said it 100 different times, right? And delivering it to a person, I'll still practice that same kind of set, because if you don't, you get rusty. And number two, it's like it creates momentum, right? And it creates that other ideas can start to develop. And that's what learning is, right? They're just foundation steps, But yeah, don't skip those steps. Those are the most important part. And I think like the hustle at anything, man, like understand the core and build on top of it. Keep building on top of it.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate your time, brother. Kyle Johnson here at Bluestone Goldsmithing here at 225 West Reed Street in Baltimore, Maryland. Check them out. Yeah, man, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's my first podcast.
So I'm sure they will start coming through.
Let's go.
It's your boy Ryan Roundtree, also known as Tree the Creator. Keep hustling, brand hustlers. Peace. You've been tuning in to the Brand Hustlers Podcast, the sanctuary for ambition, innovation, and the relentless spirit of entrepreneurship. We hope today's journey has fueled your passion, sparked your curiosity, and given you the insights you need to take your brand to new heights. Remember, every big achievement starts with the dream and the courage to hustle for it. Don't miss our next episode where we uncover more stories, strategies, and insights from the world of business. Till then, keep hustling, stay inspired, and turn your vision into victory. Thank you for listening, and remember, your brand's legacy starts right now.